we are in the process now of sort of re-envisioning part of Brooklyn, what we do and how we do it. And to that end, we have embarked on a 2-year IMLS funded grant, Building Strong Community Networks.
I'm Cindy Vandenbosch, and I'm co-chair of the Museum Access Consortium, which is mostly a volunteer-based association that was started by access professionals within museums. And so it started out in the 90s as that.
My name is Jeff DeBerry. I'm a clinician, a behavioral clinician for 82 programs. 82 programs located in Staten Island. And what we do is we serve the autism community.
Hi, I'm Aaron Feinstein. I'm director of the Miracle Project New York and executive director of Action Play.
I'm Alicia Kershaw. I'm with Galvin White Sea. And I brought lots of brochures and flyers if anybody wants more information. And I picked out an apple because we work with horses. And we have children and adults with disabilities. We teach them how to ride horses.
My name is Elaine Stillerman, and am I the only person here with a child with special needs? So I'm representing the parents, I guess. I'm here to represent, I guess, not only my son, but the community at large. So thank you. On the spectrum is a child, first and foremost. They have special ways of experiencing the world and communicating their needs or not. They are learners who, some of them are visual learners, some of them are auditory learners, some of them are kinesthetic learners. They have to touch things. To spend our money at your venues, because if you can provide for us what we need, we're there. There's a tremendous need for us to have our children have regular childhood experiences in a safe educational environment.
What we find is all the families that we work with, from one thing that's consistent, from very young ages to very old ages, families want activities to do. They want places to go. The same way that, you know, any family wants to be able to go on outings with their children and have activities to do at home with their children, and keep their children busy for their own, convenience as well. Parents of children with autism want that, and they want that greatly, but their options are somewhat limited.
I think you see actually two different threads in families, and they often weave in and out. Some families are very much interested in inclusion, and some families are very much interested in having their own room. And then, as you said, the parent who felt her child was included probably wanted to use the room, but then also wanted to have times when their child was part of a bigger.
If it's possible.
If it's possible. And so it is a challenge to try to figure out which one you're going to do where.
We all want to provide an inclusive environment, but something that we've also encountered with some parents, like you said, is that they want to get their kids or their family members out into an environment and have an experience, and they're not necessarily seeking comfort per se. I've also encountered that with some teachers where they're wanting to introduce their students to a new environment and kind of see how that goes. You were saying sometimes it is about respite and it's about recreation when you go out to a site. So sometimes museum educators have an educational objective or goal for a structured program, but it's okay to throw that out the window. I mean, not throw it out the window completely, but it's okay to have the program really be about bonding and connecting and having a multisensory experience versus sticking to your sort of structured plan, because that more than likely may not work.
I'm going to bring back, because this is great that you talked about theater and Aaron, your experience with theater and social experiences. Can you talk a little bit about what you see when you have your group together working over a long period of time?
Sure.
The types of social experiences, the benefits of social experiences that they're having.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think there's this overwhelming myth out there that children with autism are not social and maybe don't have a desire to be social. I think that's the place that a lot of these conversations have to start, which is that children with autism are seeking out social experiences, but a lot of times it's very difficult for them, and they need to be in a place where they are accepted and where they are encouraged. So it's really interesting that we've been talking so much about inclusion-based programs versus things that are more catered to a specific audience. I think what's really fascinating about that is that so many programs that are developed are wonderful, and they are really great in providing experiences for children with autism and their families and welcoming them. And I think that's one part of it. But you also have to pull away for a second and say the idea of, as an institution, is to welcome families and to provide a welcoming environment. That's ultimately, the bigger picture of all of this, and that's something I think that we're all striving to do.
Autism is a spectrum disorder, and we have this mantra within people work with autism. We always say that if you know one person with autism, then that means that you know one person with autism. and Elaine will talk, sharing her experience with her son.
A lot of times, as we all know, we're going to set off the children that we're with, our children, and so I think it's creating security. It's both, it's not just creating security for the individual child, but it's also giving that security to the parent. So it's like who came first, or what came first, the chicken or the egg sort of question. The question is how do these experiences provoke anxiety, and how do you kind of quell that anxiety?
What I find is that people with autism, change is difficult. Things that are unexpected are difficult. People with autism do the best with routine and predictability. So going to a cultural institution for the first time is not any different than going to like a mall for the first time, right?
Doing sensitivity trainings with frontline staff is so important, and especially security guards, because you think about visually the connection between security guards and police officers, and that there could be anxiety specifically around security guards.
Trying to create a safe, comfortable environment for the child and the parent. Trying to create a calm, relaxed opportunity for the child to have a sense of achievement and experience a new activity in a low-stress way. But very important to have success at that. And success to us is not, can be a very small step, but when a child, our kids are the same as every other kid, except that they are on the spectrum, so they want to do well, and they know that they're doing well, and they want to connect, so they totally want to connect and want to be social. So if you can give them an opportunity, which we can, to do well, now you've built in a desire to do more, and then that's when it starts to spread out into the rest of their lives.
And all of you have things that could be very important to this community. So, and then on top of that, I think it's how you define success in that as well, and how you think about success and the outcome. So what does the success look like? How are these experiences going to translate to your donor base? How are these experiences going to translate to your families? What are you looking to provide for the children too? It's something I think that we all need to think about. To me, a lot of it is, for instance, with the Brooklyn Museum, was enjoyment in the experience, enjoyment in the art creation, enjoyment in getting your fingers dirty and playing with different materials. That to me is exciting. But it's also trying to find out quantitative ways of translating that as well. So
Can I just jump in with one thing I've been thinking about as a service provider, so to speak, is, and it's just coming up here constantly, and maybe you guys have all figured it out, but there's a really big difference between an individual parent coming in and a group coming in. And we see that at Gallup. We work with school groups mostly in the mornings, weekday mornings, and then individual riders in the afternoons and weekends.
I think one of the biggest steps you can take is to form partnerships with service providers and with organizations, like, for example, if you're targeting families.
So you have to be fluid, you've got to be creative, but you have to be trained.
Yeah, acceptance is great. We want to encourage acceptance, but we also want to encourage advocacy. He always sees advocacy as the last step. And if we can all advocate for this community, I think that has a lot of meaning in changing the impressions of what this community can offer. So I think that's a really important piece as well.